Have you ever picked up an English book, read the same paragraph over and over, and still couldn't understand a thing? Have you ever felt too slow, too lost, and wondered, will I ever be able to read English like a native speaker? If your answer is yes, you're not alone. But here's the good news. Reading comprehension in English isn't a talent. It's a skill. And like any skill, it can be trained. All you need is the right method and the courage to keep going. What once felt impossible will one day become second nature. Welcome to Kunzy Podcast English, the place where we share real stories, proven strategies, and powerful inspiration to help you master English, starting from your own journey. In today's episode, we're diving deep into how you can improve your English reading skills in a way that's natural, fun, and surprisingly effective. Stay with us, because what you're about to learn could change the way you read English. Forever, have you ever stood in front of the mirror and asked yourself, why am I not improving? Why does the dream of speaking English fluently still feel so far away? And once again, like so many times before, you tell yourself, I'll start again tomorrow. But tomorrow keeps turning into another tomorrow until you almost believe that maybe it's just not meant to be. Not because you're not smart, not because you don't have dreams, but simply because you've tried too many times. And failed too many times. This story begins with someone just like that. Not someone special. Not a genius. Just an ordinary person with a simple dream. To communicate in English. Not to speak perfectly like a native speaker. Not to score an 8.0 on the IELTS. Just to stop feeling insecure every time someone speaks English around them. But even that modest dream felt so distant amidst a life full of responsibilities, fatigue, and the 1,000 little reasons we all find to give up. One ordinary evening, after scrolling through social media and reading a few motivational quotes, this person stumbled upon a simple line. Start with 5 minutes a day. Don't wait until you're ready. 5 minutes? That sounded trivial. Could 5 minutes a day really change anything in a lifetime? 5 minutes? Shorter than a funny video, barely worth noticing. But for some reason, that sentence made them pause. Maybe because it didn't ask for much. It didn't demand a grand commitment or any big sacrifice. Just a try. And so the first day began. A short video, just a few simple vocabulary words. No special feelings, no wow moment, no excitement. But at least they didn't quit. Day 2, still 5 minutes. This time a short dialogue between two friends. Still many words they didn't understand, still awkward. But the key thing was, they kept going. On day 3, they nearly forgot. But just before going to bed, they remembered. And because they had done it for 2 days in a row, they didn't want to break the streak. So they grabbed their phone and studied, still just 5 minutes. Gradually, something strange started to happen. They no longer felt forced. Those 5 minutes a day became a tiny part of their routine. No pressure, no stress. And precisely because there was no pressure, they didn't feel exhausted. They began to enjoy it, even feel proud after completing just 5 minutes. It felt like they were doing something good for themselves. Some days after finishing the 5 minutes, they wanted to keep going. Just a few more minutes, they thought, and so it became 3 more minutes, then 10. No one forced them, no one checked on them, but they started to enjoy it. They began to realize, instead of forcing themselves to study for an hour and quitting after a few days, starting small but consistently was what truly brought results. A little each day. No need to rush. Just don't stop. From someone who always felt like a failure with English, They slowly became someone who could read simple paragraphs, understand familiar phrases in movies. Most importantly, they began to feel confident. That inner voice saying, "I'm bad at English," faded, replaced with, "I'm getting better every day." We often think that to change ourselves, we must do something grand. But the truth is, every great journey begins with a tiny step. A person who reaches the top of a mountain doesn't leap up in one jump. They take one step at a time, day after day. Learning English, or anything, is the same. If you keep waiting for the right time, the right motivation, the perfect environment, you'll forever be standing outside your own dream. This person chose a different path. They didn't wait for more time. They didn't wait for perfect conditions. They just chose to start. And those 5 minutes a day became the key. Not because it was powerful, but because it was consistent. You might not be talented, fast, or gifted, but if you don't give up, you're already ahead of 90% of the people out there. If you're hearing this story and you've delayed, felt discouraged, told yourself, "I'm not good at learning English," then I just want to say, you don't need to change your life in a day. You only need to give yourself 5 minutes today. Don't overthink it. Don't pressure yourself to learn perfectly right away. Just sit down, open a simple video, listen to a few sentences, repeat a few words, then do it again tomorrow, and the next day, and the next. One day you'll look back and realize you've come so far. Don't let your dreams always live in someone else's hands. Don't wait until you're good enough to begin. Because only when you begin do you become good. And all it takes is one simple thing, 5 minutes a day. Small habit, big belief, day 7. 1 week had passed. They had done something they once thought impossible, learning English every single day for 7 days straight, not missing a single session, just 5 minutes a day, short but truly dedicated to themselves, free from distraction or delay. The lessons were still simple. A few words, a basic conversation, sometimes just listening to an English voice and trying to catch a few words. No magic happened. They still couldn't understand most of what they heard. They had to use the dictionary. Grammar was still confusing. And then, quietly, a feeling started to creep in. Disappointment. 7 days already. Why can't I speak yet? They asked themselves. This is a moment familiar to anyone who has ever started a new habit. At first, motivation pushes us forward. We feel powerful, determined, as if we could change the world. But after a few days, when results don't show, when everything still feels foggy, it's easy to get discouraged, to feel bored, to doubt ourselves. And the worst part, we start questioning our own ability. They stood right on that edge. On one side, continue, even if unsure of what lies ahead. On the other, quit, just like so many times before. But something had changed. Not because they had become better, not because they had learned more, but because in those 7 days, they had done something even they hadn't believed possible. They didn't give up. For the first time, they felt in control of something. No pressure, no deadlines, no teachers or bosses demanding progress. It was simply voluntary, consistent, and something to be proud of. Even though the results weren't obvious, something else had started to grow. The belief that they could actually do this. And in that seemingly dark moment, a tiny light began to shine. Belief. Belief doesn't arrive out of nowhere. It doesn't magically appear. It doesn't come from motivational quotes or loud encouragement. It is quietly built, step by step, through daily repetition. Every time they opened their phone to play a lesson, every time they repeated an old word, Every time they resisted the urge to switch to social media mid-lesson, they were silently building a bridge, one that led from the present to a new version of themselves. On day 8, they no longer studied out of duty. They studied because they had grown used to it. Something felt missing if they didn't. On day 9, they stayed a little longer. 5 minutes became 7. On day 10, they listened to the same clip over and over again, wanting to truly understand it. And then one afternoon, while replaying a simple dialogue, something unexpected happened. They understood a full sentence without subtitles. It wasn't a dramatic moment. It was soft, subtle, but deeply moving. Wait, did I just understand that? Without translating? A simple moment, yet a powerful one. It sparked a new kind of strength within, the belief that they truly could learn English. We often think belief comes after success, but the truth is, belief must come before it. Belief is what guides us to keep going. It's the fuel that helps us show up again and again. And when we do, growth begins to unfold. When progress happens, it only confirms what we've already started to believe. From someone who once thought, "I'm not good at English," they had become someone who now said, "I can learn this. I just need to keep going." They didn't need proof from anyone else. The proof was already inside them, in every small win, every act of showing up. The insecurity and self-doubt were slowly giving way to something more powerful, a quiet, persistent inner strength. You see, transformation doesn't happen through a miracle lesson. It happens through a series of small, consistent actions repeated daily until the doubt fades away. No one starts great, but anyone can start small, like 5 minutes a day. And if you're at that stage of doubt, if you've started but can't yet see the result, remember, you don't need to see the whole path to move forward. You only need enough belief to take the next step, and then the next, and then one more. Because when you believe you can, you're already halfway there. The seed beneath the soil. Have you ever asked yourself why you keep trying every day but still don't see any results? Why, despite putting in time and effort, nothing seems to change? If you've ever felt that way, you're not alone. In the journey of learning English or any skill, there will always come a silent phase, a quiet stage where everything appears stagnant. But the truth is, something inside you is growing. Our main character has now entered the 3rd week of their journey. The initial excitement has faded. No obvious results have appeared yet. Each day still includes 5 to 10 minutes of consistent study, but the internal cheer is gone. There's no longer that thrill of completing a lesson. Instead, there is a creeping silence, an emptiness that breeds doubt. Am I doing this right? Is this even worth it? What they don't realize is that beneath the soil of those habits, a seed has started to live. It hasn't sprouted, hasn't broken through the surface, but it's cracking its shell. It's digging roots deeper into the ground, silently but powerfully. Learning a language is like planting a seed. You can't plant it today, water it tomorrow, and expect flowers the day after. Life doesn't work like that. Valuable things take time. A seed needs time to break through its tough outer shell. It needs time to find water, to anchor itself in the soil, to grow its first roots. All of this happens underground, where no eye can see. But just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not happening. Likewise, those days of studying English without visible progress are actually the most important. Because they're the days when your foundation is being built. That's when your mindset begins to shift, when discipline begins to form, when perseverance takes root. That's when you transition from being a casual learner to a committed learner. Imagine this. Every time you study, even for just 5 minutes, you're sending a signal to your brain. I'm serious about this. I'm committed. Even if you haven't memorized many words, can't speak fluently, or don't fully understand English videos yet, your brain is changing. It's slowly adjusting to the sounds of English. It's forming new neural pathways. It's recording a repeated habit, and this habit, not any sudden burst of energy, is what leads to lasting results. The remarkable thing is, the learner in our story didn't give up. Even without clear progress, they continued. They kept showing up every day. They opened their app. They practiced listening, speaking, and reading. They no longer studied because they expected quick mastery. They studied because they believed in themselves, believed that as long as they kept planting, fruit would eventually grow. If you're currently in the nothing is changing phase, don't assume you're not improving. Remember the image of the seed underground. It's not idle. It's alive, growing. And more importantly, it's preparing for a breakthrough. When the time is right, it will emerge from the soil with a strength that will amaze even you. But in order to reach that moment, it needs silent days, patient days, days when it isn't dug up to check on. That seed is you, today. You're planting things you can't yet see, so that one day you'll harvest what you never imagined possible. You're building a new version of yourself from the inside, one that's more resilient, more confident, more powerful. Success doesn't come from one spark of motivation. It comes from hundreds of silent moments where you still chose to move forward. Trust that your habits are working, even when results don't appear. Keep planting, keep watering, keep believing. Because one day, you'll lift your head and realize you've changed. Not because someone else told you, but because you can feel the growth inside. And that's the moment you'll know you've begun to bloom. Core message. Results don't show up immediately, but habits are quietly building something inside you. Overcoming yourself. There's one thing that everyone inevitably faces on the journey to achieving any goal. It's those days when you just don't want to do anything. Days when you wake up feeling tired, mentally scattered, and emotionally drained. Days when you look at your phone, see the English Learning app notification, and sigh, maybe not today. But it's on those exact days, the ones that seem most unremarkable, that something quietly yet profoundly begins to shift. Because the main character in our story, despite the fatigue, laziness, and frustration, still opened up one short video to study. Just one video. Not more. But also not skipping it. You might think, what good is one short video? But it's not just a lesson. It's a battle. A quiet showdown between the current self and the self they aspire to be. And this time, the winner wasn't procrastination. It wasn't exhaustion. It was willpower. It was discipline. It was the courage to overcome oneself. We often think breakthroughs happen when we do something extraordinary, but the truth is the opposite. The real breakthrough happens when you manage to do something small, on a day you feel you have nothing left in you. When you persist through your worst days, that's when you're actually becoming someone new. They no longer studied because it was fun or exciting. They studied because they had made a commitment, not based on fleeting emotions, but on values. And in that moment, a new identity began to take shape. They were no longer someone who was trying to learn English. They became someone disciplined, someone who keeps going, no matter how they feel, Someone who no longer depends on motivation, but acts from within. Discipline isn't some magical force. It starts with doing what you know needs to be done, even when you don't feel like it. Every time you push through resistance, you send yourself a powerful message. I'm in control of me. Gradually, you begin to believe it. You stop needing motivation to start, because habits are now part of who you are. Success in any area does not belong to those who act only when they feel energized. It belongs to those who keep showing up, even without applause, even without instant results, even when they feel exhausted. And for that reason, our English learner quietly made a breakthrough. Not because they were smarter than anyone else, but because they were more consistent than the version of themselves from yesterday. Each time you open a short video, even just 3 minutes, on a day when you genuinely don't feel like doing anything, that's a declaration. I'm no longer a slave to my feelings. And when you repeat that action day after day, you're laying down a solid foundation for your future. A future where you no longer act based on mood swings, but from your inner strength. Someone once said, "Discipline is the bridge between goals and achievement." And today you've laid one more brick on that bridge. You don't need to sprint. You just need to not stop. Every day you overcome yourself. You take one step closer to your best version. You might not see the change just yet, but trust this, something magical is happening inside you. A strength is growing. A resolve is solidifying. A new identity is being built. The identity of someone who doesn't quit, someone who has discipline, someone who has learned to overcome themselves. Core message: discipline is when you keep going, even when you no longer feel motivated. The unexpected push from a friend. There are moments, small, fleeting, that shake us deeply, not because they are grand or dramatic, but because they come at just the right time, when we've almost forgotten why we started, when we feel like all our efforts are invisible, unnoticed. And then a seemingly casual remark from a friend becomes a beam of light breaking through the clouds of self-doubt. "Hey, your English pronunciation sounds pretty smooth lately." A simple comment, a gentle observation. But for the person on this journey, it was like a jolt to the heart. They paused, reflected. They hadn't realized they had changed. Better pronunciation? Really? They hadn't noticed. Because for them, each day was just 5 minutes, a short video, a few new words, some quiet practice whispered under their breath. Nothing dramatic. No sudden breakthrough. And that's exactly what made this moment so magical. The change hadn't come with fireworks. It had grown quietly like a seed sprouting under the soil, unseen. And when someone else notices that you've grown, even before you notice it yourself, that's when you know you're on the right path. We all crave a little recognition, not because we're needy for praise, but because we're human. We need to know that our small daily efforts aren't meaningless. That comment from their friend didn't just make them smile. It lit a new fire inside. A new kind of motivation, not just internal anymore, but now also powered by the world around them. For the first time, they thought, I'm actually getting somewhere. You see, often we are the last to notice our own growth. We live inside our routines. Doing a bit each day doesn't feel like progress. But imagine a cup being filled drop by drop. One day, it overflows, and you wonder, when did this happen? The magic is in the repetition, not in studying for 5 hours once a week, but in those 5 quiet minutes every day, consistent, uninterrupted. Then one day, someone else walks in, looks at you, and says, "You've changed." That recognition isn't just nice to hear. It's confirmation that you're no longer who you used to be. You've shifted from someone who was once afraid to speak English, nervous about pronunciation, embarrassed by grammar mistakes, into someone else. Not perfect, but someone who dares to speak, dares to try, dares to be proud of their effort. And here's the beautiful part. When others start noticing your transformation, your journey is no longer just your own. You begin to inspire others. They look at you and think, if they can do it, maybe I can too. That's the quiet ripple effect of an authentic journey. The path to learning English or reaching any goal isn't always marked by grand milestones. Sometimes it's as subtle as a surprised look from an old friend, a casual compliment in a conversation. That's enough to remind you, you're on the right track. Don't stop. Core message. Others will notice your growth before you even realize it yourself. From a shy learner to a confident communicator, there is a kind of fear that doesn't come from darkness or monsters. It comes from something seemingly simple, a basic conversation in English. It's the fear of being judged, the fear of making mistakes, the fear of not being understood, and worst of all, the fear of facing your own inadequacy. For our main character, this fear used to be their greatest barrier. They didn't hate English. In fact, they had dreams. Dreams of one day being able to chat with foreigners confidently, of watching movies without subtitles, or simply introducing themselves fluently in a job interview. But every time an opportunity to speak came, their mouth froze, heart raced, and not a single word came out. They thought they just weren't talented enough, that maybe learning was pointless, that fluency was reserved for the gifted. And so they chose silence. They avoided opportunities. They dodged questions. Even simple conversations became battles of anxiety. But something miraculous began, with just 5 minutes a day. It wasn't grammar drills or exam prep. It was something far smaller. Listening to a short video, repeating a few simple sentences, whispering alone in their room, or muttering while washing dishes. At first, they only spoke when no one was around. They mimicked characters from shows. They recorded their voice and deleted it immediately, thinking, I sound weird. Still, they kept going. Every day. Not much, but consistently. And strangely enough, no one forced them to do it. That tiny habit slowly chipped away at their fear. Over time, speaking English didn't feel scary anymore. It felt familiar. Then one day, in a random moment, maybe a tourist asked for directions or a class discussion popped up, they just spoke. Not perfectly, not fluently. Maybe with hesitation, maybe with mistakes. But they spoke, without panic, without hiding. That moment was like a lightning strike. It awakened something deep inside them. They realized they could speak English, not flawlessly, but enough to start, enough to move forward. The biggest transformation wasn't in pronunciation or vocabulary. It was in who they were becoming. From someone afraid of mistakes to someone who welcomed them. From someone silent to someone who initiated. From fear to courage. That kind of confidence doesn't come from being better. It comes from allowing yourself to be imperfect. No textbook teaches that. No course explains how to be brave. But their small daily actions slowly built that courage. That 5-minute commitment wasn't just a study habit. It was the foundation of a new identity. I am someone who speaks up. And here's the beautiful part. When you start speaking, the world responds. A native speaker smiles because you tried. A teacher encourages you because you participated. A friend asks for help because you sound better now. These small external affirmations become powerful fuel, not from test scores, but from the quiet recognition, I'm improving. From then on, they were no longer someone who's afraid of speaking English. They were someone who knew deep down that every small word, every brave attempt, every awkward conversation was building a stronger, bolder version of themselves. Core message: small actions can transform your character and change your life. Shadow reading. Your voice will transform. Have you ever listened to a recording of your own voice and thought, do I really sound like that? Maybe it made you laugh. Maybe it made you cringe. Our main character felt exactly the same. The first time they tried shadow reading, a method where you speak along with a native speaker, they couldn't help but chuckle. Is that really my pronunciation? I sound so awkward, they thought. But little did they know, from that small moment of awkwardness, a powerful transformation was about to begin. Shadow reading isn't a new technique, but for them, it was a breakthrough. They picked a short video, just 5 minutes long, and started listening closely to each sentence. Then came the real challenge: imitation. Not just repeating the words, but mimicking the rhythm, tone, pauses, and even the emotions of the speaker. It was like becoming a shadow, silent but perfectly in sync. At first, they felt self-conscious. Every time they opened their mouth, they noticed mistakes. The accent was off, the tone was flat, the confidence wasn't there. But instead of quitting, they kept going. And the more they practiced, something strange happened. Their voice began to change. After a few days, their pronunciation softened. After a week, they began to pause at the right times. After 2 weeks, they were capturing the emotional tone of native speakers. And gradually, they started to like their own voice. A voice that now sounded clearer, smoother, and more expressive. Just like learning an instrument. Awkward at first, but suddenly one day you're playing entire songs. Shadow reading transformed from a drill into an expression. It wasn't just about the mouth. It trained the ears to hear accurately, the brain to process naturally, and the heart to speak confidently. They began choosing videos they truly enjoyed. Motivational speeches, inspiring dialogues, even funny conversations from movies. They didn't just repeat, they immersed themselves in the emotion, lived the moment, and most importantly, learned how to deliver meaning with their own voice. Then, it happened. During a casual conversation, a friend blurted out, Wow, your English sounds kind of like a native now." That moment hit different. They didn't need to explain how much they practiced. Their voice told the whole story. A story of quiet dedication, 5 minutes at a time. Shadow reading doesn't demand talent. It only asks for consistency. Just a little every day. Like drops of water carving into stone, every moment of practice slowly shapes a new version of yourself. You don't need long hours, just the right method, practiced consistently. Your voice is a reflection of who you are, and you can evolve that voice simply by shadowing those who've already mastered the craft. If you want to speak like the best, learn from the best. Don't fear imitation, because through imitation, you'll emerge with authenticity. Core message: if you want to speak well, be the shadow of those who speak great. Speak along, and you'll unlock a better version of yourself. Looking back after 90 days, I am a different person. You don't realize how much you've changed until one day you pause and look back at the path you've walked. Our main character, who began with just 5 minutes of English study each day, no pressure, no high expectations, has now reached the 90-day mark. 3 months, a full quarter of their life. And as they look back, the first realization strikes. I'm no longer the same person. Their voice has changed. No longer hesitant or awkward when pronouncing words. Now their speech is clearer, more rhythmic, filled with confidence. Their belief has transformed. From the initial doubt, can I really do this? To the solid conviction, I'm on the path to becoming a better version of myself every single day. Most importantly, their identity has evolved. Once lost and unmotivated, they are now someone who learns consistently, with discipline and a clear goal, to master English in order to take control of their life. This transformation didn't come from giant leaps. It came from showing up daily, from not giving up on tired days, from practicing shadow reading even when it was just for 5 minutes, from quietly persisting, no praise, no applause, until one day even they had to admit, I've truly changed. You see, you don't need to start perfectly. You just need to start, no matter how small, and don't quit. The power lies in persistence. In a world where everyone starts something but few finish it, you can be the exception. Believe this. Every great transformation starts with a tiny step. 90 days ago, our character made the simple choice to study for 5 minutes a day. Today, they've changed their mindset, their emotions, and their future. Core message: you don't need to start perfectly. You just need to start and not give up. If this story inspired you, please click like, share it with someone who needs this, and subscribe to Kunzy Podcast English so you never miss an episode. Learning English is not just about language. It's about discovering who you really are. Let's keep going together.